We're in Stuttgart, Germany in May 2007. The Bundesliga is down to its final day of the season. 5 hours away to the northwest, FC Schalke are up 2-0, eagerly awaiting the result of this game. A defeat here will surely mean that the title is lost. The score is currently 1-0. Who are these teams? Where is FC Bayern Munich? And how did one of the greatest title races of the 21st century swing on this kick? The Bundesliga, or as some fans call it, the Bayernliga, can be a boring watch at the end of the season because it's so often already over. Between 2011 and 2023, Bayern Munich won the title 11 consecutive times. Back in the 2000s, this wasn't much different. Between 1996 and 2007, Die Bayern won the title 7 of the 11 seasons. So who won it in the other 4? Prior to Xabi Alonso's success with Bayern Leverkusen, Borussia Dortmund, led by Marco Reus, Lewandowski, and Mats Hummels, have most frequently played title contender in recent Bundesliga history. And they were still a top team in the 2000s. They won one title in 2002, led by future Arsenal players Jens Lehmann and Thomas Rosicky. But Dortmund would finish outside of the top 3 for 9 consecutive seasons following that, until their next title win under Jurgen Klopp in 2011. The most consistent challenger of the era were Werder Bremen. They had most recently won the Bundesliga in 2004. There was also Hamburg, Leverkusen, led by a young Dimitar Berbatov, and VfB Stuttgart. Stuttgart had finished in the upper places over the last few seasons, but hadn't won the title since 1992. They had just finished 9th in 2006, and were knocked out in the round of 32 in the competition now known as the Europa League. This season couldn't have started much worse for Stuttgart, who found themselves losing 3-0 at home to Nuremberg on Matchday 1. Matchday 2 didn't appear to be going much better. Against lowly Arminia, Stuttgart were down to 9 men, tied at 2-2 with less than 10 minutes to go. But in one of the last actions of the match, striker Kakao hit a shot from over 30 yards out that flew past Arminia's keeper to give them the late lead. It was the first time that season that the Stuttgart fans saw the immense potential of this young group. Just who played for Stuttgart back in 2006? That summer, they had chosen to call up one of their young German midfielders from the academy to the senior team, a player named Sami Khedira. Khedira would hold down the midfield alongside Mexican international Pavel Pardo. Pardo was one of a handful of signings made to shore up the defense, led by goalkeeper Timo Hildebrand. They brought in Ivorian left-back Artur Boca from Ligue 2. There was Antonio da Silva from FC Mainz, midfielder Roberto Hilbert from the second Bundesliga, and then there was Ricardo Osorio and Pavel Pardo, who had both impressed at the 2006 World Cup for Mexico, hosted by Germany. For Hildebrand, living in the shadow of players like Oliver Kahn and Manuel Neuer, he's often overlooked as one of the Bundesliga's best goalkeepers. He still owns the record for consecutive clean sheets with 8, which he set for Stuttgart 3 seasons ago. Hildebrand's performances helped propel Stuttgart to 3rd place on 49 points at the start of April 2007. In terms of the attack, Stuttgart had struggled to score goals the season prior under Italian coach Giovanni Trapattoni. Trapattoni had brought in his own group of forwards, led by veteran former Milan striker Jan Dahl Tomasson. This season brought a new manager in Armin Veh. Veh's team selection focused on the young core of players, and he also brought Kakao back into the team, a decision that was paying dividends many times over, after he'd only started 11 times in the 2005 season. Here was the table at the start of April 2007. Hold on, where's Bayern Munich? Despite being preseason favorites to win the title, Bayern didn't crack the top spot in the Bundesliga once after match week 10. Manager Felix Magath was sacked mid-season after a string of poor Bundesliga results, an early exit in the DFB Pokal, and reported internal tensions with the Bayern staff. Bayern faltering creates a power vacuum in the Bundesliga. It's a throne with no king. And this season, Werder Bremen led the table for 10 weeks, led by Brazilian star Diego Ribas, known simply as Diego. Bremen were led by two star attackers in Diego and young German international striker Miroslav Klose. But it was another surprise team in FC Schalke who were leading the Bundesliga for the majority of the season. They spent 15 weeks in first place, led by former Stuttgart striker Kevin Kuranyi. Schalke's other star was their goalkeeper, the young Manuel Neuer, who was in the midst of his first breakout season. With 2 match days remaining, FC Schalke were in control of their destiny, ahead of Werder Bremen by 2 points and Stuttgart by 1. That brings us to the events of May 12, 2007. All 18 Bundesliga teams will play this afternoon, but only 3 of the matches really matter. First, Schalke take on Borussia Dortmund in the fixture known as the Revier Derby. This is one of the classic derbies that throws prior form out the window. But Dortmund had won 3 straight headed into this game. In Bremen, a packed crowd watches the third-place team take the field in the hopes that it'll be them retaking the top Bundesliga spot. Bremen were facing an Eintracht Frankfurt team that had hung around the lower places of the Bundesliga this season. Bremen had put 6 past them in the reverse fixture, with a hat-trick from Naldo, the first ever Bundesliga hat-trick scored by a defender. But this Bremen side were wobbling. They'd just been knocked out of the Europa League 5-1 by Espanyol and suffered a shock defeat 3-2 to lowly Arminia. Stuttgart were in Bochum, 1 point above Werder, but also 1 point behind Schalke in first. Just a week ago, Bochum had beaten Schalke 2-1. As the matches began, it didn't take long for the drama to unfold. After only 4 minutes, Stuttgart already found themselves 1-0 down. Frankfurt also opened the scoring against Werder after only 13 minutes, putting FC Schalke clear at the top of the table. 10 minutes later, Stuttgart equalized. Kakao found himself in space on the right side and played in a ground cross to midfielder Thomas Hitzelsberger, putting them back within a point. The first halves would continue to swing back and forth. Werder Bremen equalized in the 34th minute, before Bochum retook the lead against Stuttgart 8 minutes later with this unlikely strike from what looked like 40 yards out. Bochum's Marcel Maltrich fell to the ground in wild celebrations. This was the final key action in Stuttgart's game, but just before the half, Dortmund striker Alexander Frey snuck in to put the black and yellow up 1-0 over Schalke. Here was how the table looked after 45 minutes. For Stuttgart, the task is clear. With 45 minutes left in this match, they sit 2 points behind the league leaders. The fact that we've arrived in this configuration is itself an incredible story. To be in the title race at this juncture, Stuttgart had to rattle off a perfect run of form. Entering April 2007, Stuttgart were 4 points off the league lead. They entered the match against Bochum having won 6 straight games. Of the 3 teams chasing the title, they were the only team to have beaten Bayern Munich, with 2 goals in 2 minutes from Kakao. Less than a month earlier, Bayern had taken all 3 points from Schalke and drawn 1-1 with Werder Bremen on the 11th of March. While most fans would be used to Bayern peeling away from the competition at this point in the season, it was the Bavarians actually keeping the title race close in 2007. Players from the various teams now retake the field for the second half. After 55 minutes, with Stuttgart still trailing by a goal, Armin Veh looked to his bench in search of some inspiration to lift the team. Defender Ricardo Osorio is taken off and replaced by Antonio da Silva. It was also the introduction of one of their other strikers, and a player now known to the footballing world as a European champion. Stuttgart is a club with a history of developing young talent. This team was young, but they've also raised modern footballing stars, like Joshua Kimmich, Serge Gnabry, and Antonio Rudiger. One of Stuttgart's best ever transfers was a 2-year loan move for a young right back called Philipp Lahm, who helped them to some of those upper-placed finishes earlier in the 2000s. This year's youth was further forward. You had Sami Khedira in midfield, but Stuttgart were spearheaded by the new hot German striker, the tall Mario Gomez. Gomez, who made his senior debut for Germany in the summer of 2007, rose to international prominence alongside German forwards Lukas Podolski and Miroslav Klose. In his age 20 season the year prior, Gomez had registered a handful of goals and assists while featuring primarily from the bench. This season was a different story. He quickly became the star man up front, ending the season as Stuttgart's top goal scorer with 14, despite not being on penalty kicks. His ability to both finish and link up with teammates is one of the more sought-after abilities in modern football. In mid-March, Gomez had suffered both a hand injury and a torn ligament in his knee. This substitute appearance was Gomez's first with the team since the injury, after miraculously spending only 6 weeks away from the group. The substitution had a virtually instant effect. Pavel Pardo picked up the ball from a throw-in and played a deep cross into the near post, which was put in by a diving header from Super Mario Gomez. With that goal, Stuttgart moved up onto 65 points and into first, ahead by just a single goal on goal difference. Meanwhile in Bremen, Naldo, who scored the first ever Bundesliga hat-trick by a defender, scored on his own team, leaving Werder behind with only 20 minutes to go. Schalke, still a goal behind against Dortmund, are stuck in second place. Word of the events at the other grounds is now starting to spread around the stadium in Stuttgart. And minutes later, Sami Khedira's pass found Kakao, who turned and slotted a finish past Bochum's goalkeeper. Another clutch moment by the German-Brazilian. With that goal, Stuttgart now moved 2 points ahead in the race. And with just 5 minutes to go in the Riviera Derby, a goal from Schmallarek sends Dortmund 2-0 up and closes the door on Schalke controlling their own destiny with 1 game remaining. All there is for Stuttgart to do is keep a clean sheet for the next 10 minutes. Here's the thing about being a goalkeeper. You may end up on the back of a magazine for a flashy save that parries a shot away from flying into the top corner. But it was saves like these from Stuttgart's Timo Hildebrand that helped them contend for this 2007 title. This one saved the season. Now the final whistle blows and the stadium erupts. The unthinkable has happened. In 90 minutes, Stuttgart have jumped 2 places and moved into the top spot of the Bundesliga with just 1 game to go. They've now won 7 matches in a row, beating Bayern along the way and coming back in dramatic fashion to top it off. So here we are, Matchday 34, May 19th, 2007. Stuttgart now know that they control their destiny in this final game against Cottbus. This is only the 3rd match day this year on which Stuttgart go into it occupying the top spot. A draw in this match technically does mean that Stuttgart can win the Bundesliga title on goal difference, but only a victory truly guarantees the Meisterschale. And the route of the draw is definitely not a guarantee, with the goal difference sitting at only 2. After just over 10 minutes, the task for Stuttgart becomes clear, as Schalke have taken the lead. 5 minutes later, they're ahead 2-0. Cooler heads must prevail. At this point, the last thing that can happen is for Stuttgart to concede. In the 19th minute, Sergiu Radu puts Cottbus up 1-0. Let's remember though, this Stuttgart team are used to coming back. Whether it was a 40-yard stunner or that run of 7 consecutive wins, this squad has accomplished the unthinkable. With just over 26 minutes played, Stuttgart now win themselves a corner kick. Welcome to a moment in history.
Endlich noch einmal hereinkommen, jetzt kommt er weit nach hinten auf Hitzelsberger! Tor!
Thomas Hitzelsperger's 30-yard volley set Stuttgart Stadium alight, and all they had to do was hold on for a point. Midway through the second half, a cross from the left found the head of Sami Khedira, who gave Stuttgart a lead that they would never give up. The 2007 season was a rare one in Bundesliga history. Besides Dortmund, only Leverkusen and Wolfsburg have won it since. But Stuttgart's title was a perfect send-off for legendary Timo Hildebrand in his final season. It was a first major honor of many for Sami Khedira and Mario Gomez, and it was a crowning achievement for the likes of Hitzelsperger, Pavel Pardo, Kakao, and young defender Serdar Tashi, who became club heroes forever. If you enjoyed the video, leave a like and subscribe. Leave a comment below with what other parts of the game you want to see covered, and I hope to see you again on Sincere FC very soon.